Well, hello, all you wonderful people. We have a lot to cover in today's video, a lot of wrestling-related stuff. I've been trying to get caught up on all the wrestling-related stuff that's out there from WWE to New Japan to everything else in between. I'm almost fully caught up on the G1 Climax tournament. I actually just got done watching, right before I started filming, I got done watching Night 18. Which finalized the finals, and the finals have already happened, but I have not watched it yet, so please don't spoil it for me. Tournament has been great. It's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed it. Tanahashi, Nakamura, Okada, AJ Styles, the matches they have are just incredible. Hanma has had a lot of great matches, although unfortunately he lost most of them. And I think Michael Elgin has done very well for himself as well. Ishii's done very well. So a lot of great matches came out of this tournament. I've really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to watch the finals. But again, please do not spoil it for me. Haven't had a chance to watch it yet. I was going to watch Triple Mania, but I heard that there were a huge amount of audio problems related to said event, so I've decided not to watch it because I don't want to put up with that. So never mind. I was going to watch Triple Mania and review it and have the review up for you here, but I ultimately decided against it when I heard that there were so many technical difficulties. So I said, nix that, moving on. I have to say, I miss Lucha Underground already, and we're only the first Wednesday without Lucha Underground, and I'm like, man, I kind of miss it. But what can you do? You know, it's here's hoping we get a season 2. Here's hoping. It'd be great because I kind of want it back already. But yeah, the main topic at hand is SummerSlam, which is happening next Sunday, and one match in particular. We also have NXT TakeOver happening the night before, which is great. And I think TakeOver could be a really good show. I'm really looking forward to Balor versus Owens in a ladder match for the NXT title. I think that could be great. Bayley looks like she's going to win the NXT Women's title, which good for her. It's great. It's kind of a rushed, truncated version of the Sami Zayn storyline from last year. But considering so many girls got moved up from NXT to the main roster so quickly, I guess it kind of has to be rushed. And, good for Bayley. She's the best girl they have left now that, Charlotte, Becky, and Sasha have moved up to the main show. So, good for her. It looks like she's going to win the belt, which I'm completely fine with that. We got Vaudevillains versus Blake and Murphy for the NXT tag titles, with the Vaudevillains having some way of neutralizing Alexa Bliss. We'll see how that turns out. Dum-de-dum-de-dum. What else? Uhaa Nation, or Apollo Crews, I should say, is making his debut. It looks like we're going to get Samoa Joe versus Baron Corbin based on what happened on the last episode. I'm trying to think, is there anything else? I don't know. Can't think of anything. No, that might be it. Oh, and Tyler Breeze versus Jushin Thunder Liger. That could be really cool. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. And I think the new setting of having it in Brooklyn and everything is going to give it a different atmosphere and a different vibe. So I think that could be a really good show. And especially, I think the main event's going to be fantastic. So looking forward to that. But SummerSlam. Yeah, one match in particular I wanted to talk about was the Brock Lesnar Undertaker match. It's actually the main topic of this video that I wanted to cover. There's other things on the show. Cena versus Rollins is set. I think they're still going to go ahead with that, despite Cena's broken nose and everything. And yeah, that did look nasty. And I was, I hope Cena. It's not. I hope the injury wasn't as bad as it looked, because I might not like the character or anything, but I don't wish harm on the guy. But it looks like we're going to get that. I would hope that Seth would retain, but I'm not going to hold my breath. What else? I do have to say, I like Stephen Amell's involvement. I thought the bit on Raw came off really well. And I think it could be a lot of fun. I'm especially happy for, I almost said Goldust, but Stardust and Bad News Barrett, or King Barrett, sorry. Because chances are they'd normally be doing nothing. So it's nice that they actually have something of some value. Even though they're going to be jobbing in this match, there's no way. Because it's whenever they involve a celebrity, the celebrity almost always wins. So... but I thought the angle on Raw was really fun, and I think it could be a really fun match at SummerSlam. We'll see. Again, fingers crossed. Hopefully it turns out well. But I thought the stuff they did on Raw at least generated some kind of a spark. if nothing else. And other stuff, it looks like we're going to get Owens versus Cesaro. I hope that's what we get. There's talk that there might be a four-way with Orton and Sheamus thrown in, but I'd rather have Cesaro versus Owens one-on-one and just let them show what they can do. But yeah, so that's most of the SummerSlam card right there. Not terrible. Oh, I also have to say they went with the match that I suggested, the three-team elimination match between all the three-woman diva teams. I think that could be fun. So here's hoping that turns into a really good match and again provides a nice springboard for the future of the Divas division. But the main thing I wanted to talk about in this video was Undertaker versus Brock Lesnar. Now, those of you who saw my review of WrestleMania 30 knows that I thought that match was terrible. I thought the match that those two had was absolutely atrocious. Undertaker looked old as fuck. It was reported that he had a concussion. He got concussed early in the match and worked through it, which, okay, fine, but he still looked old as fuck. And I didn't like the way he looked at WrestleMania 31 and at Battleground when he interfered. Was it Battleground? See, I'm getting all the pay-per-views confused. Okay, the pay-per-view where Rollins and Lesnar had their match and Undertaker interfered. Okay. Which I'm pretty sure was Battleground, but I've already forgotten the name. He looked like he could barely get Lesnar up for the tombstone, so I don't really know what to expect out of them as far as it being an actual good match goes. My expectations are very low. The one thing I am scared to death that they're gonna do is that they're going to have Undertaker go over, which would be such a bad, stupid move. It would be a horrible, horrible decision. There's no reason for Undertaker to get his win back, and I'm here to highlight why. Again, it's the main topic of the video, so let's go. They had Brock Lesnar end the streak. Prior to that, Brock Lesnar had been severely hampered, whatever. He came in with a lot of buzz. His return was huge, and then first pay-per-view out, he jobs to John Cena. Then he goes on to have a feud with Triple H in that meandering, boring series of matches they had, which didn't do him any favor. It didn't do him any favors, even though he won 2 out of the 3. The fact that he suffered a loss to Triple H at WrestleMania and the matches they had were so kind of blah. Just the most painfully mediocre matches I've ever seen. Those didn't do Lesnar any favors. I remember the review I gave of the cage match where it was like, oh, so Triple H dominates most of the match and then wants the sympathy for a massive beatdown without taking the massive beatdown. Okay, that makes sense. But in any case, Lesnar didn't come off looking too good after his matches with Triple H. Then he had the match with Punk, which was great, but again, it was still kind of like Punk was kind of a guy that basically jobbed to everybody. Listen to the podcast with Cole Cabana. He outlined it all. It's like, I lose to Rock, Rock goes away. I lose to Triple H Goes away. I lose to Undertaker goes away. I look like a piece of shit right now. It's kind of true. You're basically saying that the entire past generation is better than Punk. So Punk was not really like the most credible guy on the planet through no fault of his own. This was just the way he was booked. So Lesnar beating him, even though the match was terrific, Lesnar beating him was not exactly a huge feather in his cap. So then he moves along. He beats Big Show at Royal Rumble, which again, no big deal. Everybody beats Big Show. My grandmother probably beat Big Show at some point. That doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything. And it's all to set him up for Undertaker WrestleMania, which me and many other people thought it's like, all right, Undertaker's just going to chew him up and spit him out like he does everybody. And nobody really expected the streak to end. And then it did. Lesnar beat him. Lesnar beat The Undertaker in dominant fashion at WrestleMania, killed the streak, and going into that match, before that happened, the biggest win you could give anybody, even bigger than a world title win in the main event at WrestleMania, is having somebody end the streak, because that's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. This streak that they've put over 2 decades of build-up and storylines and all this credibility and all that they put into the streak, and Brock Lesnar is the guy that ended it. He destroyed The Undertaker and his streak. It was literally the most shocking outcome that anybody could have ever anticipated for WrestleMania that year. And it really solidified Lesnar. It's like, oh my God, maybe this guy's, maybe they're going to run with this guy and make him a monster. And then, sure enough, SummerSlam rolls around. He faces Cena for the title, and he has what I think is one of the most memorable matches in the last decade or so, where he completely obliterated John Cena to the point that it was basically a squash match. And that was even just as shocking, where it was like, oh my God, this guy did the unthinkable. And again, we all know wrestling's a work, but immerse yourself in the storyline here. He beat the guy that never lost at WrestleMania for over 2 decades. He beat him, destroyed him, ended it. He goes in there up against Superman, Kryptonian John Cena, and completely destroys him. To the point that they should rename Brock Lesnar Kryptonite. He just obliterated, steamrolled John Cena. So you take those two seemingly unbeatable guys, in Undertaker and Cena, and you have Lesnar destroy them and end the streak and win the title. He looks fucking unbeatable. I mean, because here's the thing. You put all the credibility into the streak, and then the guy who ends it, the credibility of the streak then transfers over to him. You put all this credibility into John Cena as the seemingly unbeatable guy. You have a guy obliterate and destroy him. All that credibility transfers over to Brock Lesnar. And now he's like the most unstoppable monster on the planet. You have successfully created the wrestling equivalent of King Kong. He is just this unbeatable, unrelenting, just killing machine. He's the best. He is unquestionably, just, again, looking at it from a storyline perspective, he is the best guy in wrestling. He's unbeatable. He is, he's a monster, and they've successfully dedicated themselves to it. And this is in an era where they will constantly say, oh, this guy is a monster, like Big Show, like Kane, like Mark Henry, those guys. But then they'll turn around and they'll have them lose all the time. And to use a TNA example, that would be Abyss. It's like, oh, Abyss is a monster, but he loses all the time. Kane is a monster, but he hardly ever wins. Big Show's a monster, except he loses all the time. Mark Henry, I can't remember the fucking last time he won a match, but they'll still say he's like, this unbeatable force, and they'll say it, but they don't commit to it, and that's the problem. And that's why they've had so much trouble creating legitimate monsters. And it generates a lot of intrigue when you put that much credibility into somebody and you successfully build him up as this unstoppable force. It really makes the character more interesting. And it also helps that Lesnar's a part-time guy, because that makes his appearances feel like they're can't miss. You can't miss a Brock Lesnar match because you don't get them all the time. He really is a special attraction, and it's they built so much into him that it's like, all right, this guy that destroyed John Cena and ended the streak, who's going to beat him? Who's going to be the guy that ultimately takes Lesnar down and gets all that credibility? Because then, okay, all the credibility that you built into the streak and you built into John Cena, you transferred it over to Lesnar. Now you got to make your plan to ultimately have Lesnar fall at the hands of somebody else, and then you can move all that credibility over to that guy, and then hopefully create a new star in the process. And I'm not saying there's any one guy in particular that should go to. I'm just saying that they should be planning for that, and they should take the ultimate victory over Brock Lesnar and make it this. It's the biggest win you can get at this point, because since beating Undertaker, Lesnar has been unstoppable. He has been unbeaten, and they even got the title off of him in a way where he didn't have to eat the pin. So he's still and it was all about Seth being a sniveling weasel coward. It had nothing to do with him actually beating Lesnar. And then Seth only got by him in the one-on-one match because Undertaker's a sore loser and ruined a main event. But I'll get to that in a minute. But a win over Brock Lesnar is like the biggest win you can give somebody at this point. It's because you've built so much into him being unbeatable, and you've convinced the fans that he's unbeatable, that the victory over him is going to be huge. I think, personally, it would be a huge mistake to take all of that, do all of that work, give him the streak, give him Cena, give him the title, do all that stuff, even go to the trouble of not having him lose at WrestleMania to what we all feared was going to be Roman Reigns. Didn't happen, but to me it would be a gigantic waste if they put all that build into that just to turn around and have Undertaker be the guy to do it. To me, that would just be a gigantic waste. And what good would it do to give Undertaker his win back? the streak's still dead. You can't fix that. And we can debate back and forth on whether or not it was a mistake to do that. I said it was a mistake at the time because I didn't truthfully believe they were going to commit to Lesnar as well as they have. They did. They did exactly what they needed to do following the victory of following Lesnar's victory over Taker. So, okay, I'll relent and admit that it's like, okay, they made it work. I thought it was a huge mistake, and in the end, it turns out they actually did have a plan and they made it work. To me, that would be completely undone if Undertaker just turns around and beat him. It makes no sense for Undertaker to be the guy to ultimately beat Brock Lesnar. It's entirely possible that he may, that they'll do that because, they love to, give people their win back or whatever. But I just feel like it would just undo the good work that they've done with Brock Lesnar. So, I mean, look at WrestleMania 3. You've got Hulk Hogan, who's been champion for 4 years, taking on Andre the Giant, who they billed as being undefeated for 15 years, which, if you look at Andre's entire career, that isn't entirely true, but they were able to get away with it and convince people that he had been unbeaten for 15 years, and it worked. If Andre lost on TV all the time leading into that match, Hogan's victory over him wouldn't have meant as much. You got to build into the thing so that when the ultimate accomplishment happens, it's more satisfying and it feels like a payoff. And I would argue that the way they handled the streak ending was a major misstep because they didn't, like I said, they didn't do a good enough job of building up Brock. They didn't do a good enough job of making it seem like a possibility that the streak could end. Lesnar, nobody thought Lesnar was going to win that match. It was just kind of, and they did a horrible, like I said, they did a horrible job of building him up and everything. So, but they made the decision to end the streak. They went with it, and they got some good stuff out of it. So I say just keep the ball rolling. If you want to have Lesnar go over at SummerSlam, I would be fully in favor of that. I don't, like I said, there's no reason for Undertaker to win this match. None at all. It does no good. If anything, I would liken it to Hulk Hogan beating the Ultimate Warrior in WCW in 1998 just to get his win back for WrestleMania 6. What's the point? What point does it serve to do that? It doesn't help anybody. It doesn't, and it hurts things long term. Although, I guess in the case of the WCW thing, it didn't really hurt anything because Warrior wasn't going to work out anyway. But they've done so much great work with Lesnar that if they have him lose, if they have Undertaker be the guy to beat him, when somebody, let's say Daniel Bryan or Dean Ambrose or Roman Reigns or somebody like that, I don't know, take a pick. One of those guys ultimately beats Lesnar down the road. It won't mean as much because Undertaker already beat him. It would still be a big win, but it won't be that larger-than-life major moment that it should be because Undertaker already beat him. And you kind of undid the work there a little bit. So I think Lesnar should go over. I don't think there's any reason in the world Undertaker should get his win back. I think it would be a mistake. I've heard people say it's like, well, they've got to give Undertaker to win here to set him up for Sting at WrestleMania. My problem with that is Undertaker already got his establishing win at WrestleMania this year when they fed Bray Wyatt to him. And the flip side of that is, okay, when is Sting going to get his establishing win? I'm still waiting for that. Sting doesn't get a win to set him up for Taker? What kind of fucking unbalanced equation is that? Fuck that. And yes, Sting fully should have gone over Triple H this year. I will fight that until the day I die. But, so that's horseshit. It's like, Undertaker needs to beat the unbeatable guy to set him up for Sting. And I'm like, Sting's already beneath Undertaker at this point. So what fucking good is that going to do? If anything, Sting should be the one getting an establishing win at this point. No, if anybody suggests, Sting should go over Lesnar, I'm like, no, that would be a mistake. Don't do that. But, he should have gone over Triple H at WrestleMania. But in any case, I wouldn't be surprised if Sting got involved in this match in some way, shape, or form. Whether it be costing Undertaker the match, which, of course, let's make Sting the heel. Of course they would book it that way. But, Because fuck the WCW guy. And I could see them doing that. I could also see them, Undertaker winning and then Sting and him have a stare down after the match, which, yay. Let's sacrifice all the good work you've done with Lesnar just to make that match happen, even though you don't need to do that to make that match happen. So, it is what it is. But, yeah, I'm going to keep my fingers crossed and just hope to God that Lesnar goes over at SummerSlam, because there is absolutely no reason for Undertaker to win. None at all. The only justification that people can give that would be that, it would make the fans happy. Okay, so what? I mean, that's a short-term goal. I'm like, all right, the fans are happy. Now what? You've ruined Lesnar, and Undertaker's going to go away again. And probably show up in time for WrestleMania to feud with Sting, where he'll beat Sting, and because Sting will never win a match in the WWE, because fuck you, that's why. Yeah, whatever. I mean, that doesn't excite me nearly as much as the prospect of having this unbeatable monster and then figuring out who's going to beat him. And seeing where they go from there. But in any case, that'll be the main event to SummerSlam. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the closer over Rollins and Cena, or whatever. I guess we'll find out what the main event is on Raw tomorrow night. But in any case, that is all I have for now. Just food for thought, giving my feelings on the Undertaker-Lesnar match and various other things. I will have a video sometime... Let's see. You know what? I'll probably post a video right after TakeOver, just to give my immediate reaction to it. That'll be my next video. So be on the lookout for that. But until then, y'all have a good week, and I will see you all later.